get on with the video because I want to go to bed. I got a really special video for you guys, and I say that a lot, but I mean it this time. I also know that I said that I mean it this time last time, but this time I also mean it this time. In this video today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 rarest toy army men in my collection. And they're almost as rare as me getting a date on a Saturday night. So anyway, guys, let's go ahead and jump right in, but before we do, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment, and if you haven't already, like, what are you doing? Go join the Discord. Link is in the description. We have tons of fun over there if you want to talk to me or other people who collect. And we don't just talk about Army Men. We talk about Lego, action figures, Star Wars Black Series, literally a little bit of everything. Tanks, airplanes, trains, and automobiles included. But that being said, let's take a look at the rarest toy Army Men in my collection. Welcome one and welcome all to another spectacular video of top 5s. An interesting video that I'm surprised I didn't think to do sooner. You know, I was really racking my brain to think of a good idea for top 5s. Like, since I've done stuff like top 5 most useless army men, top 5, you know, this and that, I find that sometimes I kind of struggle coming up with ideas for top 5. But today it just hit me. I was like, top 5 rarest toy army men, and we're going to jump right into that topic with these. And I know what you're thinking, Clay. You're off your medicine again, you loser, and you've gone crazy, because these are just Imperial. You see the little Imperial logo there. And yes, while this specific bag is no longer on store shelves these days, and they are kind of difficult to find, just sealed, they aren't really rare. That's because we're not talking about these, because this is an example. So Imperial made army men for Walmart, the dollar store, Dollar General, pretty much every, like, just cheapo dime store. And they made clones of Tibby figures forever and ever. And you also probably remember these guys right here. I grew up with these, and I remember one of the first sets of these I ever got was probably in like 2003 or 2004, and they just blew me away because they were different. Like, they weren't the regular Tibby clones, they were these. And these guys are awesome. These guys, looks like I bit off, or someone bit that off. I don't think it was me, because this is not from my childhood collection or anything. This is from a lot I got online, so I guess a kid did that. One of the things I always like to do was turn this person's head. But, anyway, enough about these guys, because we're not talking about them either. We're talking about these. So I'm going to start putting them all in the frame. I refer to these as the Bizarro Imperial figures. They did not make these for very long, and there's a few reasons why, and the main one is they're kind of awkward looking. Just a little bit, but at the same time, I think this is a really good lineup of figures. So looking at the bazooka guy, so these are just slightly different from a regular Tibby knockoff. So here's the Imperial remake, here's the Tibby, and it's not even like they replaced the Tibby knockoffs with these, because I remember very clearly sometimes they'd be sold side by side. And I had a handful of these growing up. And they only made these for about a year or two, which that's not very long if you think about it, because, like I said, Imperial made these figures, at least these guys here and their Tibby knockoffs, forever. And these guys specifically, they only did for like 2 years. So I remember going to Walmart and seeing the card back, and these guys would be in there. And I would always try to pick them up because they seemed really special. They were just different. So, they're very lanky, like, they're slightly taller, they're differently proportioned, they're kind of cartoony a little bit, like if you look in the face. This guy has a hole in his head, I guess from a battle. So, got the radio operator, and they're a little bit more detailed than the average Imperial clone, which is really cool. And here's the machine gunner, and I'm going to put him next to a Tibby clone by Imperial machine gunner. So, yeah, these were really difficult to find, and they're especially difficult to find now, believe it or not. It took me a few years before I found a lot with these in them, and these are about the most that I have. And that's really surprising for just knockoff Imperial Army men that were made forever. Like, if you look on eBay right now and you look up Imperial, you'll probably see tons of these guys and tons of the Tibby clones, but you might be a little hard-pressed to find these. And it took me a while before I found a decent lot that was decently priced with these in them. And it's not even like the price was outrageous because of them. It was just because whoever listed it was like a scammer who was like, oh, these are vintage army men that are worth a lot, side note, I actually saw some Imperial army men. They were these at a antique store. They were like 15 in a bag. The person wanted $10 for them, and this is why I carry my business cards, because when I see those kinds of people, I whip them out and I go, plastic commander, like I'm some kind of armyman police officer, and I explain to them why they're wrong. So that's just me doing the Lord's work. But yeah, my favorite out of this little rogues gallery is this guy here, because it looks like he has a grenade launcher. Looks like he has like an M16 style rifle, and he has a grenade launcher right here. That's how I always used him, like he was going boop, like in Call of Duty. So yeah, I love this guy. He's a little awkward looking, but again, they go in pretty well with like these guys and even the Tibby clones. So I had a bunch of them growing up, and of course I don't have my original army men from when I grew up anymore, but still, I thought it would be nice to mention these because you don't really see them that often. And you also get a little guy throwing a grenade. I don't think I showed him off. And there's that rifle, and yeah, that's definitely a grenade launcher. So, at number 5, the Imperial Bizarro figures. So, coming in at the number 4 spot, we have the Tibby Grenadier and the Tibby Marching Guy. And I know what you're thinking. These aren't super rare. The marching guy is a little bit, and for those of you who don't know, my first video on this channel was about this guy and the Tibby lineup. And I talked about how this guy they made for a few years, and he was in the original Tibby set, and then they quit making him. And it was really odd, because you never see this guy ever. And he is a little difficult to find, and he averages for about $5 on his lonesome on the internet, at least from what I've seen. So, if you see a lot with him in it, pick it up. But then we have the Tibby Grenadier. So, of course, we all know that with this guy, the story goes at least, the mold for this guy broke, and instead of replacing the hand with a grenade again, they replaced it with the open palm that we all know. So, these two guys, on their own, are pretty rare, but what if I told you that they made the grenade guy in their neon colors? So, for those of you who don't know, when Tibby, in the early 70s, at the height of the Vietnam War, 1970, I think, was like their lowest year in sales, and part of it was because the big anti-war movement, people just weren't buying their kids' military toys as much. I know we like to think of that time period as not being as sanitized as now, but that was the truth. People were really tired of the war in Vietnam, and they just didn't like things that reminded them of it, and military toys were one of them. So, to help bolster sales, Tibby started making their army men in a bunch of other colors. They made them in pink, in neon yellow, in blue, and I think they did a couple other shades of green, but these are the 3 I have this guy in. And also, one interesting thing to note, and I'm feeling that one, the base for the pink guy is like really solid. This is an original vintage pink guy. If you compare him to one that BMC does, that pink isn't like this translucent kind of pink. It's like a more solid, light pink color. That's really interesting, and that's how you can tell the difference between the two. In fact, it's more like this pink here, like I'm going to put them side by side, which this is a vintage Galaxy Laser Team guy, but you get my point. And then, of course, neon, oh my god, Butterfingers, which is fitting because he's yellow. Yeah, this kind of neon pink color. I got all of these in a lot a while back, about 3 years ago, and I was really stoked when I opened it up and saw these, because these are quite rare. They're some of the rarer Tibby figures that you can get, and if you do see them online, definitely go for them. Like I said, the marching guy alone, he's usually like a $5 guy, just by himself. I've seen him go for $5 and $10 just on his own. And it's because they didn't make a lot of them. They quit making this guy just a few years into the run. And this guy, I used to always think that this guy, they quit doing before the 70s. But these neon guys are proof of the opposite of that. So, really cool, really rare, and number 4. Also, just a real quick side tangent for both of these guys. Both of these guys were on my old original Commander Quarter shelf, and when I moved, I had forgotten that I threw all of those figures in their own specific container. I actually threw them in a Toy Story bucket, like the bucket of soldiers, just an empty one I had. I have one that's sealed, one that's empty, and I just tossed them in there because I was just like, I gotta move. I was in a hurry. So, and I forgot they were there, and I set it up on the Commander Quarter, the new one, and I rummaged through like 6 Rubbermaids. I spent an hour and a half looking for both of these guys, and I was like, oh my goodness, where are my Tibby marching dude? It's a really specific problem to have. But yeah, just a real funny tidbit real quick. This right here is a Markx British Soldier 6-inch figure. So if you know Markx, and on the bottom, made in Markx Toys, Britain, World War II British soldiers at Louis Markx, or copyright Louis Markx, and a bunch of other stuff I can't see because I am not wearing my glasses right now. So, regular 1/32 scale Markx British soldiers already are pretty rare. In fact, one moment, I do have a couple of those. These are reproductions of those British soldiers, and they were sold in battlegrounds that were made specifically for them. Here's just a handful. We got a radio operator. This guy who's kind of like the American soldier, but he has a revolver, which is really cool. I think that's a Sheffield revolver. This guy with the Lee Enfield, which that Lee Enfield looks a little short. And a guy throwing a grenade. So really cool. But those, of course, are reproductions, so they don't count. This is original. And I know it's original because there's just no reproductions of this guy. I found him at an antique store, and he was very mildly priced. I think I paid $5. And I looked online, and I've seen him go for around $100, which is bananas, right? And I actually talked to the guy who had the booth, and he said he had another one just like it, but it was broken, and I just haven't seen it at his booth. So I don't know if he just forgot about it or whatever. But yeah, what I do think is really funny is that he also had one of those tubs of football players, you know, the one that they sell at like Mardell's and Hobby Lobby and stuff. He wanted like $30 for that, but like $5 for this guy because he didn't know what this was. So yeah, a 6-inch already, like I said, 1/32 scale original British soldiers are already rare enough. Like your average Markx American 1/32 soldier can run you like $1 or $2. Germans, if they're gray, $1 or $2. If they're white from Guns and Navarone, $3 to $4. These original, I've seen go $10, $15, $20 just for a single one. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. So for a 6-inch guy that they didn't make a lot of, because that's why they're so expensive. It's because they didn't make a lot of them. They didn't make as many as the Americans because they weren't as popular. That's crazy, and I'm so glad I found him and I was able to rescue him, and now he has a spot on one of my shelves. So, in the number 2 spot, we got this guy. And I know what you're thinking, Clay, what is so special about this guy? Well, what if I told you he's one of the only ones of his kind? That's right, what you are looking at specifically is a prototype by the company Austin Miniatures. That's right. So last year, for those of you who have kept up with my channel, Austin Miniatures, Austin, the man, the myth, the legend, he reached out to me. I felt a little bad because he reached out. Okay, so this is a funny story. He reached out to me through Discord. He joined my Discord. He was like, I'm looking for the Plastic Commander, because I had forgotten to list my business email on there. And my profile picture was a picture of a snake, because I was doing a bit on another Discord with my friends where I was pretending to be a snake, and I will not go into any more detail than that. It was specifically an Eastern boom slang. I will not elaborate further, but I had to quickly change my stuff, like, oh, yep, it's me, so I didn't look like some random guy. And I gave him my Instagram, and he reached out to me, DM'd me through Instagram. He was like, I want to send you a care package. And I did a video on it. It was an unboxing video. And thank you so much, Austin. Again, this was so thoughtful of you. And I feel really bad because I didn't mention this guy in that video. But I did make a TikTok and a reel on him just the other week. Kind of a little late, I know. But it just kept escaping me, you know. But I'm talking about him here in this video. So, again, thank you so much, Austin. I really appreciate you, and I can't wait to see what you guys put out next, because I'm definitely going to buy whatever set y'all put out, because their stuff is really high quality, and I mean that legitimately. They're one of the best, really nice toy soldier companies that are on the market right now, and they're new, up and coming, and even better, they're made right here in the USA. So, Austin Miniatures, big shout out to those guys, and if you haven't gotten any figures from them, if you're a fan of Conti or TSSD, you're going to love their stuff. So, number 2, Austin Miniatures Prototype. I know you're looking at the screen and you're just thinking, he is not talking about his Bergen Novelty Co set again, but he is. So, at the number 1 spot, the rarest piece in my collection, without a doubt, is this vintage 1940s Bergen Novelty Co. set. So, again, these are actually legitimately some of the first plastic army men ever mass-produced. In fact, most toy historians consider Bergen Novelty Co. to be the birthplace of the plastic toy soldier. They started making plastic toy soldiers back in the 1930s, which that's really early. At that time, most companies were making their figures out of lead, which Bergen Novelty Co. also made lead soldiers, which I do have a few. They're in my living room right now on display. But they switched over to plastic, and I don't know if they could just see into the future or what, because of course we all know in the late 40s we had what was called the lead scare, and that was because we found out that lead was poisonous, and we made toys out of it. And what do kids like to do with toys? They like to put them in their mouth. So a bunch of toy companies, they started switching immediately over to plastic because plastic was cheap. It was very easy to work with, just like lead. In fact, it was a little bit easier, and it was the hot new thing. Lots of stuff in the 40s was switching over to plastic just because it was really new, and it was an exciting new material. So, I'll pull a few of these guys out to give you a closer look. We have this guy here who is wearing a gas mask, and he has a pistol. What I think is really funny is that only the front of his pistol is painted. I don't know. I'm going to assume they hand-painted these two. That's the funny thing to me, is that whoever hand-painted this just was like, they slathered that paint on the front of the gun and was like, I'm calling it a day. I'm going to go home to beat my wife and smoke cigarettes, or whatever they did. In fact, I think mostly women did that kind of job in toy factories, doing the paint. So it was probably a woman who was like, that's good enough. I'm going to go home and beat my husband and smoke cigarettes. In fact, I'm going to wiggle this guy out. You got to be careful, because this cardboard is like 100 years old. Is the back of... Yep. I forgot about that. I forgot only the front. So yeah, really cool. And I'll pull this horse gentleman out, and he detaches. I believe he should. Some dust on there, and my goodness, look at those wishbone legs he has. So, really cool, and I'll show off the box. I think the box is actually cooler than the figures, and that's crazy to say. But yeah, they are washable. I don't believe that. I think that's false advertising. A safe toy for children. Non-inflammable. As in, they can't not catch on fire? Can someone explain that to me? Or am I just stupid? I'm probably just stupid. Non-inflammable. And also, for some reason, a lot of the, logo and stuff on here I had forgotten was Wild West themed, which is interesting. But yeah, Bergen Novelty Co. And I have a video where I go in depth on this playset and I show it off and I compare it to a Sunny Days playset. And I'll link that video down below. But definitely go check that video out. So, at number 1, the rarest piece I own, Bergen Novelty Co. playset. I said that like it was an ad for Tibby. So, that up there, that, you can barely see it, that's the Toy Story tub that all of those army men were in that I couldn't find. And I was driving myself nuts because I was going through the closet that's in this room. That's where all my bulk tubs are. And, like, I couldn't find them. And I was just like, where is my marching Tibby guy? What a specific problem to have. Anyway, if you stayed this long, thank you very, very much. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe. What do you think about these figures? Are they rare? Are they not so rare? Like, how do you feel about them? I'm legitimately curious. So like I said, go ahead and join the Discord if you haven't already. And also, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. I have tons of other top 5 videos I've made over the years that are pretty good, if you ask me. And that might be bias. Anyway, guys, I'm the Plastic Commander. You're the audience. Bye.
Mission accomplished. Well done, man. Pack it up. We're going home.